Welcome to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, and for almost a decade, I have been a transformation coach and therapist. This podcast is all about lifting the veil of consciousness and awakening to the truth. It is also about helping you to raise the bar in all areas of your life and relationships by starting with you. If you're ready to take back your personal power and reclaim your life, you have come to the right place. I'm so glad that you're here, so let's get started with today's episode. This episode's going to be a bit of a mashup of a few different directions I want to take it based on things that I have heard from women I have coached this week, feedback from End the Cycle members in the portal where I ask a lot of questions of you if you are in there as you go through the modules about what you're experiencing, what your biggest struggle is, what made you decide to jump in and all that. And it really helps me to curate different content in the program. It helps me realize what I need to tweak, maybe what I need to add, what I need to edit, improve. So it's great if you are listening and you are or have been an End the Cycle member and you participate in those questioning, the question answer aspects. It's very helpful. And so when I look for themes, and the things that I'm seeing repeatedly in the answers. And this is where I want to go with this episode because I think I always look for themes. I look for connections. I look for common threads that run through. I look for things that are similar. That's how my brain works. And obviously it is part of what I do as a mentor and coach is I see patterns and I look to see how I can best help my students in my program or clients to get to the root and the core of those patterns and those issues. So the first one is denial. It's being in denial about what you're experiencing. It's kind of this shock that you're playing this mental gymnastics game of ping pong in your brain. Like you're seeing the evidence in front of you that you are experiencing something very, very unhealthy, whether it falls into the category of narcissistic abuse. Another thing that I see a lot in the program is that you listened to the 10 definitive signs you're experiencing narcissistic abuse podcast. And that was the thing for you that made you dive into the program. So if you have not listened to that, that is the definitive top 10. If you are experiencing a good handful of those, it doesn't have to be all 10. But if you're experiencing several of those on an ongoing basis, you can be pretty darn certain you're experiencing narcissistic abuse. Does it mean that he's an NPD? Not going there. We're focusing on the tactics and the patterning, okay? So if you've gone and you've listened to that episode and you are in that place or you already are in that place of I'm seeing it in front of me that yes, I check off a lot of these, but this can't be what I'm experiencing. I must be getting it wrong. Like it must be me. I must be misunderstanding. I must be overreacting. I must be confused or misinterpreting things. So it's that automatic feeling compelled to take ownership and responsibility for the other's behavior. That is a huge problem in these relationships. And unless we can see that within ourselves, where we take too much ownership for things in a relationship and don't put enough on the other, that is a recipe for ending up in another toxic or narcissistic relationship. Got to get out of denial, got to get out of self-doubt that, hey, what I'm actually experiencing, sure, I may have a trigger around this, or sure, it might hurt, or I react in anger because it's abuse, it's manipulation, it's whatever it is, gaslighting. But that doesn't mean I'm misinterpreting anything. It doesn't mean that I'm confused. And if you're with someone that is at least somewhat healthy, they're not going to make you feel twisted up in knots when you bring something to them that they have done behaviorally or otherwise that doesn't sit well with you or you don't like. You bring it up and often it's an opportunity to talk about it. It doesn't immediately turn into some kind of stupid, dumb fight that turns into a conflict, right? So we have to understand that and get out of the denial that this can't be what it is. It must be me. Staying in denial prevents us from being able to do anything about it. It serves us in that way. It's another way that we self-sabotage. So seeing things for what they really are, having the evidence that yes, these things are happening on a pattern, cyclic, ongoing basis, and getting out of denial. The next one is having the confusion, but wanting clarity. Clarity on my next steps. Should I stay or go? Can this be changed or not? I want to get myself in a better place regardless, and then decide where I want to go. Again, it's that denial and that confusion of, is this really what I'm experiencing? Is it just me? So it all kind of goes together in this toxic, twisted mind fuck, because you're in the denial and you're confused. So you need the clarity to really see, I'm in denial. Here's what's actually happening. I need to stand in truth, in reality. And the thing with getting clarity is it does not come from sitting down and thinking about it, from overthinking and ruminating and obsessing. It doesn't come from talking to all of your friends and family about it over and over, the same things over and over. It doesn't typically come from a therapist chair when you're sitting with a therapist. Sometimes it can come in journaling, like you can get some clarity in that sometimes. But to get those moments of clarity, typically new information or ideas need to come into play. We need to have a level of self-awareness there about what is going on to get the clarity around what is this I'm actually experiencing, and to not let yourself slip into the abyss of denial. This isn't what I'm experiencing. No, because over here he's doing all these nice things and he doesn't fit over here in these categories. We play this game with ourselves of like, I am experiencing severe gastrointestinal issues. I am experiencing severe migraines. I am emotional eating and binge eating. I am depressed and on medication. I am up all night because I can't sleep. I have debilitating anxiety. I have dark thoughts that what might actually be easier is if I just leave the planet. Then I don't have to deal with this. So these are the things that you are dealing with, and yet you're in denial and saying, this can't be me. This can't be the relationship that's causing this. It must be me. So we need to get out of denial to get to clarity. Okay, they're kind of hand in hand. The next one is when we are doing in the program, I have you do your core non-negotiable needs in a relationship. And typically when you're in a relationship like this, none of your needs are getting met. Maybe sometimes it's financial, or you might have a few little things that get done there, like logistical things, acts of service that get done because they have to be. When you're looking at, running a household, sure, there might be some things there that they do. But on the whole, typically, almost always, I don't like to speak in absolutes. I try not to, but sometimes I think I just need to say always, your needs are not being met emotionally consistently. Your needs for intimacy and connection and feeling seen and heard are not being met. And typically with women, we have those needs. It depends on what your love languages is. It's this whole other thing is to go figure what that is. If you haven't read the 5 love languages, it's helpful. It's not that you're going to get those met in this particular relationship, but it's helpful to know them so that you can compare them to something. And so what I have women do in the program is, through my own process, is like figuring, because you typically don't know what you want. I don't know how many times I hear from women when they get to the part in the program where it's really like defining what they need, their goals, what they want, all those things. So confused, completely lost, have no idea. They've lost their footing. And so it's hard enough to just say, hey, what do you want? There's a process involved. But anyways, defining what those are helps you to see, okay, there's this really large bridge between what I really need to feel fulfilled in this relationship and what I'm actually getting. And what are the chances that I'm actually going to have those needs met consistently, right? And so one of the things that came up in and it has come up before in my ETC groups, is, well, he comes back with his needs that it could be one of these few things. Well, I'm not going to meet your emotional needs unless you meet my needs for sex and physical affection. Or what about my needs? Like, my needs need to be met too. And my non-negotiable is that we have more sex and that we have more intimacy. So they will typically do this when you bring forward your needs. Like, hey, I need more connection time. When I come to you and talk to you, I want you to listen and take in what I'm saying and take accountability and change what you're doing. And then it's like, well, here's my needs, right? You're always going to be doing that dance rather than, okay, I hear you, let's talk about it. They're not bringing up, hey, there's these issues here, there's these needs I have that aren't being met, and I know there are some that you probably have too, but can we discuss mine right now? Like, bringing it up on a separate topic. Those things are typically not happening during these needs conversations that women are trying to have. Typically, that's where the gaslighting comes in, the manipulating, what about you? You're not perfect either. Well, I guess I'm just a shitty person or a shitty partner. Why don't you leave then if you don't like it? You're getting those kinds of responses to shift away from, hey, here's the needs that I have that are not being met. And it turns into this thing, you already know. If you're living this, you know what I mean. It goes sideways very, very quickly. All of these conversations around your needs, your relationship needs, the things that you are feeling are missing, that you're starved for in the relationship. Now, we have to also be really aware, ladies, that a lot of times we are placing way too much on the relationship for our needs, our fulfillment, our happiness, our validation, all of those things. So this is why doing the work is the foundation. It's not about changing him. It's not about getting him to change, although this is what we try for decades first, right? Before we get to the realization that I've got to stop putting all this energy, investing all this time into trying to figure him out, trying to get him to change. I need to change me. And that starts with getting out of denial that this is what I'm experiencing. To stop telling myself I'm confused and I don't know what to do and I'm lost and I'm overwhelmed, because when we tell ourselves that story, there is no solution in that. And then we need to define what those needs are and what are the needs that are specific to a romantic partner, right? We have different categories of needs. And having a healthy, holistic balance in our life of where we're getting different types of needs met, instead of putting them all on one person. Now, these relationships tend to create a lot of isolation. And so you tend to start relying on one person for your emotional needs, for your companionship, for your validation. And you're going to this person that's creating all this confusion and chaos to try and get clarity, to try and get validation, to try and get comfort after they have just mistreated you and left you in tears. And then they come along and sweep in and apologize and try to make it all better and comfort you when they're the ones that upset you in the first place, over and over and over and over and over again. We have got to get out of this nonsense of, here's what he's doing this, he's doing that, he wants this, he wants that, he's saying this, he's doing that. Instead going, I'm doing this, I'm feeling this, I'm experiencing this, this is what it's doing to me, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to focus on, what about me? And now it is time to say, what about me? What do I need to do? This is the hardest shift for women to make, especially those of us that have those codependent tendencies, those tendencies to people please and put everybody and everything else ahead of ourselves. It is very hard for all women in the program when we do the 30-day relationship clarity bootcamp inside of End the Cycle. When they're doing that first initial 30 days, a lot of them are just really rattled in that because they're having to learn new ways of doing things. It's very uncomfortable. And I have you doing that when you first come in on purpose. We're not easing into it. We're getting right into it. because it's about like diving in head first and being like, okay, this is really bad. This is bad. Like, I can't sit in this anymore and deny it. I can't keep telling myself I'm unclear and I'm not sure what I'm experiencing, because this is reality. This is what I'm living with. And that is what that first 30 days is designed to help you with, the first 30 days in the program. Sometimes, obviously, you continue on with that throughout the program, but the initial 30 days is designed to get you there, to get you to clarity. And a quick plug I want to mention here is, if you're interested to learn more about what that process is that I teach and how to get out of that confusion and into clarity, to know what to do from here, where to go from here, I'm teaching a live class on May the 25th that is called the Relationship Clarity Plan. And I'm going to show you exactly the steps you need to take that we're talking about here a little more in depth in the class. So head to the show notes here in this episode and you can register. Alternatively, you will always find the link in my Instagram show notes link, my Instagram bio link. Where am I? At Awakening Women Official on Instagram. I always have my updated links there as well. If you're following me, that's a really easy way. Sometimes some people don't know how to find the show notes in an episode, but basically if you're in this episode, you should be able to just scroll down on the episode and see the show notes and the link. But for whatever reason, if that doesn't work for you, then just come into my Instagram. So we need to get out of this denial. We need to get out of this fog. We need to stop saying we don't know. And clarity comes through taking new action. It doesn't come from sitting and waiting, from hoping and seeing, from giving it more time, right? Sure, it might come eventually, but you're wasting years and years and years for that to come, right? It's about taking new action. It's doing something different that you've never done before. That's the whole point. And you've probably already done the books and been in the free Facebook groups and been to all the therapists, and you're still just as confused as ever. And this is why these methods are not effective when you're dealing with something like this, of an urgent matter that needs an urgent strategy. Like, you're coming in and here we are, we're dealing with this. There's no more of this dabbling around and, oh, isn't it awful? And, oh, poor you. And, oh gosh, he's such a this and that. No, it's, hey, here's what you need to do. Stop bullshitting yourself, get to work. And that is how my approach is. It's not, of course, there's compassion and there's empathy and there is understanding that you're coming into it, you know, in a fragile state a lot of times. But most times too, women are coming in from this place of like, all I know is I cannot do this for one more day. I cannot do this anymore. And so they take that pain and channel it toward creating change. And that's where you need to get to. That's how you know you're ready to change, when you're so sick and tired of your same bullshit, the same patterns, the same cycles over and over and over again that you're experiencing. And they are repetitive and they are consistent and they're happening on an ongoing basis. And no matter what you do, you can't seem to break the pattern. And so that really sends us more into that denial, because we look at all of it and we're like, this is too overwhelming. I'm going to go back into denial now and go back in my shell and pretend this isn't happening, because the reality of this is too much. And we tell ourselves, I'm confused. It must be me. I must be the problem. I must be misunderstanding or misinterpreting. And so we keep going back into that. And then we tell ourselves during a quote unquote normal period, when there isn't any obvious bullshit going on, oh, maybe it's not this, maybe it's fine, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it is me, maybe I need to go back to my therapist or read 50 more books because maybe it's me. When I'm talking about doing your inner work, it's not just that. There's a place for books and personal development and therapy and coaching, yes. But unless you have like a solid, specific plan that is tailored to what it is that you're experiencing, you're going to flounder. You're going to end up back in the same place over and over and over again. So if this is resonating with you and you are sick and tired of this, I want you to get yourself a seat in that upcoming live masterclass. At the end, there will be open Q&A, and the link again will be in the show notes or my Instagram bio link. So a recap, you've got to get out of denial. Every time you tell yourself, this can't be it, this can't be what I'm experiencing, it must be me, realize that you're slipping into the fog. That this is where we need to bust through that victim mentality in a sense, right? Like that, just feel into what happens in your body when you are doing that. What happens to you mentally and emotionally when something is happening that's very clearly what's happening and you're telling yourself, oh, it must not be this. What I'm seeing must not be it. All right. The second is understanding that the clarity you seek does not come from waiting it out, waiting to see, trying to find a million different other options, dabbling here, dabbling there, dabbling in all these things. As you know, it does not work. It just adds to your overwhelm. Instead, you need to focus in on a few key things and keep consistent with those things to get the clarity. And then it is also realizing that you're allowed to have your non-negotiable needs, and knowing what those are is going to help you get the clarity, right? It's going to help you get the clarity and stand in that. And be prepared that, of course, when you are speaking up about those needs and you're dealing with a true abuser, a true narcissistic person, of course they're going to push back on that. They're not going to be like, oh, let me work on that. They're going to be like, hey, you want my list too? Well, here's my list. I want more sex. I want more this. I want more attention, whatever it is, right? And when you have been dealing with this type of treatment over time, I would say most women, again, there's probably exceptions. Some women have said, no, it's actually the only time I feel like I can connect with him. So I do want it, but he's the one that rejects me. So there are those exceptions. But I think what I've seen more across the board is just that women have shut down sexually because they don't have any connection to this person anymore. The love is gone. They have no desire to be touched, hugged, sit near, even in the same room, breathed on. Like just their partner's mere existence is like nails on a chalkboard, right? That's where it gets to. So the last thing you want to be doing is that. Does that mean you don't like sex and intimacy? Probably not. Probably just with the wrong person, right? But being in these relationships over time shuts all of that down. It shuts down emotionally, you shut down psychologically, and then you shut down physically. It starts before the physical. Right? The emotional shutdown starts before the physical. And eventually you are living like roommates in separate rooms, separate parts of the house, living separate lives. And some women go on doing that for years before they come into the program and work with me. I can only speak to women, obviously, I've worked with, right? But that for years, they can go on living in the roommate situation. It's no life. And realize that every day that you are in this, not doing anything new about it, you're wasting away one of your days that you could be spending truly changing your life, moving toward a life that you really do love, that you feel good in, that you wake up feeling peaceful. It's you get to wake up and deal with your own stuff, not someone else's. You get to wake up and feel peace, even if there's shit going sideways. It's a different kind of peace when you're not living in relationship turmoil. You get to choose what you're going to do, what you're going to spend your money on, the choices you make, how you're going to keep your house, what you're going to do with you, how you want to dress, how you want to think, your beliefs. You get to have that space. But when you're in it, there is no space for you. There is nothing for you in it. And you slowly just lose yourself and become smaller and smaller and smaller. So that wraps up this episode, and I hope to see you in class on May the 25th. Take care. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. If you love this show and it has served you and helped you on your journey, please take a moment right now and leave a rating and review in iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like more daily content, videos, and inspiration, come on over and join me at Awakening Women Support Official over on Instagram, where we can connect and you can continue your transformation and growth journey. And I'll see you online. Take care.